Welcome along to the show. This is The Property Manager as Guest, where we turn the tables on vacation rental property managers. We invite them to throw open the doors to their rentals and offer us a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes. They share their struggles, secrets and champagne-worthy successes. My name's Leo Walton. I'm the host of the show and also a co-founder of Superhog, where we empower safety in the vacation rental world through technology solutions you can trust. Thank you for being here, and hopefully you'll find lots of tips and advice for your own property management business or vacation rental.
I'm delighted to be joined by CEO of Stayluxe Properties, Heather Fillmore-Brown. Heather, how are you?
I'm really good.
Now tell us, Heather, you're not from Utah originally, but you've built a business here, which we're going to talk all about. Tell me, before we get to that, what brought you to Utah and Park City area?
To answer your question on how I ended up in Utah, it's a little bit of a backwards story, and I will make it as brief as possible. So essentially what happened was I was married for 17 years to my children's dad, had 3 beautiful children. They are all adults now. And then got divorced and almost immediately remarried, which I would never do again, and nor do I encourage people to do that. But literally within a month of signing the divorce decree, I was married again. And so I got married to my now business partner and lived in Louisiana for about 7 years with him. And we ended up in a massive flood. It just started raining on a Friday and never stopped. It rained for days and days and days and days. And so by the time that the water crested in that flood, we were essentially in a houseboat. So everything went underwater. We lost almost everything that we owned. And so when the water went away, I sat on the ground and started crying and thought, light a match, just light the whole thing on fire. I don't want to deal with this, because if anybody who has ever lived through a flood, it is very messy. It is disgusting. We spent a year cleaning up, mucking out, all of that. And then we kind of looked at each other and said, we've got to do something different. So we packed up what little we had. We had 2 vehicles and a small little pool behind U-Haul. So we had 1 chair, my kitchen items, and what was left of my studio. And we traveled cross country to Utah. And here we are.
Wow.
And so he actually got a job with a vacation rental company in Park City. Shortly after landing here, he got a job with a Park City vacation rental management company as like a maintenance tech, guest services kind of thing. I joined him in June of 2018, and a job was created for me in this vacation rental management company. And initially it was said that I was going to be a content writer. It very quickly morphed into something more. And so within 2 years, Bo and I were running the Park City market pretty much by ourselves. Really, the only thing that I was not doing was writing the checks to the owners. Everything else I was doing. I was writing owner statements. We were taking care of reservations, maintenance on the homes, owner relations. 2020, 2019, the end of 2019 into the beginning of 2020, everybody knows what happens, right? COVID happens, right? And for us, it was, for many ski markets, it was the same story. Mountains closed down. Skiers are like, what do we do? Everybody's in a panic. We're dealing with, cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. And so I stepped in to help. Towards the end there, I was working really, really long weeks, and it was just really hard. And so I made the decision to leave. I resigned on May 15th of 2020. And then on June 1st, began building a company. So in 30 days, I built Stayluxe Properties. And on July 1st, we started with 15 homeowners. Yeah, so it's been quite a journey. It was not something that I ever intended. I think as a child, I always knew that my intrinsic personality was more of an entrepreneur personality. I don't really like working for other people if I don't have to. I like the freedom of making my own decisions and learning from my own failures.
What is it about our fantastic industry that you personally love? Why do you love working in this space?
I had a moment of awareness earlier in this month. Some really just nasty things happened kind of the first week of the month that I just was really struggling with. And much of it was guest related, badly behaved guests. Um, and one of them was a housekeeper, but the other two were guests. And so I just had this like almost like awakening moment where I just thought, why am I doing this? Like, I really want to put my fist through a wall right now. And that's not fun. That feeling is not a feeling of enjoyment or passion or anything like that. It's just being angry. And I don't like sitting in a space of just being angry. I mean, if that's all I'm going to get out of this, then why would I do it? Right. And so I really had to start doing a deep dive into it. That's what I love about this industry is the ability that I get or that I have, or the opportunity, I guess I should say, that I have to go to step into homes. I have always loved architecture, design, staging, photography, architectural photography. I will take a picture of a house any day over taking a picture of a person. No thanks. I don't want to deal with the people. That for me is what brings me joy in this space, is that opportunity to step into, beautiful architecture on a regular basis and do something to highlight and improve that architecture. That's really the thing that I love the most. And then, speaking a little bit further to that was this idea of your why. Everybody always talks about that, right? What is your why? And I'm like, I don't know. What is my why? You know what I mean? It's just because what I expressed in that blog was, listen, 90% of the time, my why is I need to pay my bills. I survived a flood, people, and 2 divorces. Like, I'm 50 years old, twice divorced, and survived a flood. I need to pay my bills. I need to make sure that I'm not eating dog food when I'm 80, right? So for me, 90% of the time, my why is let's make some money and make sure that I'm paying my bills, right? And living a fairly comfortable life. One of the biggest reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing is to show my 3 children that anything is possible at any age. I'm 50 years old. And the story, the story of Martha Stewart, right? That she started her empire when she was 50. Like, anything is possible. You can start at any time and build something that you can feel good about. And so that's my why at this point. I know that that's very, very dramatically different than many other people in this industry who are like, I love guests. I think guests are amazing. And all of that. I'm just like, that's great for you, but that's not my why.
I think that's fantastic. I love the honesty. I love the deep dive into how you came to where you are and what motivates you still to keep going. And
yeah, 100% I believe in the concept that the key to success post failure is finding what you were supposed to learn and holding on to the opportunities that the failure provides for you. That's really what the key to success post failure is. You can sit mired, and that was really what happened to me earlier this month, right? When all of these like 3 major things happen all in one week. And I literally sat in that moment, was just like, this is ridiculous. I'm throwing my hands up. I'm done with this. I'm finding someone to buy my business and I'm out. And so, but if there's one word that I would use to describe myself over the course of my life as a whole, the 50 years I've been alive, is survivor.
Does that translate to you being a control freak? Are you in everything in your business, or are you able to say, hey, you know what, this is your project, I'm going to keep out of it?
So that has been one of the hardest lessons for me to learn. I am by nature a perfectionist. And a lot of that has to do with lack of control. So here was the interesting part for me, is the first lesson on perfectionism that I had was building the business in 30 days. There is no way humanly possible for anyone to build a perfect business in 30 days. And so I'm sitting in this space thinking, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. This is not good enough. This is not good enough. But July 1st came and my owners were waiting. They were ready. They needed those listings to launch, go live, and let's get started. And it was a crucible moment for me in those 30 days to say, okay, I really am not comfortable with the fact that, there's not a great website and there's not this and there's not that. And the reality of business, of building a business, is that your clientele actually prefers for you not to be perfect on day one. And what I mean by that is that people want to see progress. They don't like stagnancy. The other thing that I would share is that one of the wisest things that my partner has said to me, my business partner, who is now my ex-husband. There was one moment early on, it was probably about a year and a half ago, where I was really, really upset with some things that were happening in our housekeeping. And of course, we outsource our housekeeping. So I don't really have as much control as what I probably would if these were staff members. And so I then I was talking to him about this, and I was, just really kind of upset about the situation. And he said to me, he's like, listen, I need for you to understand that if our team can get to 70% of your 100%, then we will still be 50% better than almost everyone else. And that statement has stuck in my brain, and I have to replay that statement to myself regularly in order to keep me in check with this concept of perfectionism and control. I outsource, number one, because as an intentionally small property management company, I don't have the staffing budget to hire people. Number two, living in a mountain town, hiring in-house staff can be very challenging because you're having to draw people from the valley, from the Salt Lake Valley, to drive up. And in a snowstorm, how can I feel confident that that person's actually got the right vehicle to bring them up in a snowstorm so that they can do the housekeeping or the maintenance or whatever it is, right? So there's that challenge. And then the last piece for me is that I actually really love supporting local businesses. And so these housekeepers, I'm encouraging them, and I'm supporting that these women-owned housekeeping companies are coming in and doing the work for me. They're not just working for you, they own their own work. It's their reputation on the line. So that's the reason why I outsource. But again, that outsourcing takes a bit of control from me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. To be where you are now, luxury properties, what's your magic number? How many homes have you got?
So we are just under 20 right now. But our goal is never to be any larger than 40. 40 of the right properties is what I think for me.
You'd take properties out. So you'd could have, if you got close to that number, you'd remove properties rather than go any higher than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I already have. Year 3, I was already firing people.
Yeah.
I think that is an important part of scaling. When people ask me about scaling, I'm just like, what do you mean scaling? Like, that's not really a thing for me. I am looking for very specific homes. I already know what I'm looking for. Even at this stage of the game, 3 years in, I already know what I'm looking for. And I think there are certain pieces that have allowed me to know what I'm looking for. I would say that one of them is knowing your numbers. I don't have a really, really solid budget at this point. I'm going to be super vulnerable there, for all those people out there that are like me, fairly young, and thinking, oh my gosh, I need to have like this really perfectly line itemed budget, and otherwise I'm going to fail. I'm going to be honest with you, that doesn't always happen. There are plenty of really big name, very successful management companies out there that did not have a budget that they were happy with until many, many years in. But what I will say is that there should be a knowledge of the high level numbers when you're going into, quote, scaling your business, bringing new properties on. You should have an understanding of the high level of what your monthly operating, fixed operating costs are versus variable operating costs, that sort of thing. If you have a high level understanding of what that is, then it makes it so much easier when you're walking into an owner conversation, a conversation with a potential new owner, because, and then on top of that, understanding your market as well. When I'm having an owner interview with a potential new owner, I have 2 questions that are the very first 2 questions. That's no matter what, if I'm talking to a new owner, question number 1 is, Can you afford to have a second home in Park City, Utah, if you never see a dime of rental revenue? If the answer is yes, we're having a conversation. If the answer is no, the next question is, do you understand that the rental revenue that you will be receiving from this home is only a subsidy? It will not cover your carrying costs of this home. And if the answer is yes, we will continue our conversation. A brand new owner to the Park City market has to have a clear understanding that there's no longer a cap rate in Park City. They cannot come in and buy a home and think that they are actually going to make money off of a vacation rental. That does not exist.
Is it the case then that your owners almost exclusively will use the property at some point in the season themselves, right? So it's a ski home that they want to use, and when they're not there, they don't want to be bothered with it, and you're in charge.
Yes, that I would say that is true, almost exclusive. There's a spectrum of homeowners. You have the some that are on the far end of the spectrum that are essentially, hey, this is a real estate asset for me. I'm never going to come and stay here. So do what you're going to do. Send me a check on the 15th of every month. Great. Okay. But then you have the other end of the spectrum where it's the homeowner that's just like, this is my baby. It's been in my family since I was, 4 years old. And I want to know every time that you change an air filter, and then you have the people in between, right? And so the vast majority of what we have is the in-between owners. We prefer to work with that type of owner. And so in the interview process, we make sure that that's the type of owner that we're working with. Park City had its fair share of VCs, right? They came in and were just like, whoa, it's time to buy a house in Park City. We're going to make some money. We did not have any of those, but we did have a couple that were 1031 exchanges, right? Where it was like there were specific rules on how many days they could actually stay in their property because they were rolling money in, as a real estate investment kind of thing. But yeah, the vast majority of our owners are people that are just like, we really love skiing. So we bought a second home in Park City and we're going to come and stay, for 20, 21 days in the winter.
Would you say you've got a real handle at this point, 2024, on who your guest is and what they need?
For the most part, what you described as a travel avatar is what we have. But what I would say is that it's segmented in Park City. But when you're talking about seasonal markets and destination markets, that sort of thing, there are seasons, right? And so your travel avatar for your peak season, for us especially, because peak season is based in snow, that travel avatar is very different than the travel avatar that's coming to visit us during the spring, summer, and fall. So we have to have a real understanding of who our travel avatar is in our peak season, which is a person that's what they do every winter. They go and ski. They're going to want to ski, the best mountains that have the best snow during that season, which can also be tricky too, because our snow season started off very slow here this year. And so those people are watching, like that travel avatar, they're literally going online and they're watching who has the most snow this season. We're going to book. And so it can really mess with your booking windows as well.
How do you direct, do you specifically focus your marketing efforts to different segments based on the time of year, or do you just do general marketing for Park City?
That is a very interesting question, Leo, because up until this year, we have really done zero marketing. My assistant and I had a meeting with an email marketing company this last week, and trying to talk through that. What does that look like? What can that bring us? What is the ROI that we get off of email marketing? All of that type of thing. And so for us, that's going to be a big thing. And we just recently had a property that was removed from the Airbnb platform. Our entire portfolio is still there, but one property due to a guest that couldn't behave like an adult, our listing was suspended. I sat there for a moment, was really, really angry, even talked to an attorney about it. And then there was a week later, I just came to this understanding of, what? This is the fire that I needed to light underneath myself to say, what? Now's the time for me to start figuring out alternative marketing methods. No longer am I going to be relying on Brian Chesky to bring people to me. I'm not a hater of Airbnb, but what I am is smart enough to understand that Airbnb is a tool, and that if that tool is used properly, then it can snowball into something else. It can move and redirect our guests in a different direction, because guests are getting smarter. They see that on my Vrbo profile and then on my Airbnb profile, it's not a picture of me. It's our logo. Guests are starting to figure it out. Oh, wait, if there's a logo on that profile, that means this is probably a business and I can go Google search them. So as we move into that new space with travelers, I think there are a lot of opportunities with marketing. And I'm seeing a lot of really amazing companies out there that are seeing a lot of these direct bookings and, targeted marketing, segmented marketing, newsletters, whatever it is that are bringing that traffic in. And so for me, that moment, like we were talking about, that moment of just, this is awful, I don't like what's happening here, became the impetus for me to say, now's the time. Let's get on a call. Let's figure this out. Let's figure out what we're going to do in 2024.
Let's go back then to when you joined the industry and you were sort of, wide-eyed and learning it. If someone had said to you, fast forward X amount of years later, you'd have your own business, Stayluxe, this is where you'd be. Would you do it again, knowing what you know now?
I think so, because for me, I look at the opportunity that I have with this business as that silver lining to a challenge. That's what I see it as. It's a blessing for me. One of the things that I would share with people all the time is I truly believe that what could be considered an apprenticeship in this industry was completely helpful for me. Like it was one of the biggest keys to my current success, is that I already knew what I was doing before I started this business. I was in the right place at the right time, and I was willing to take hold of the opportunity. So for me, I would do it again, because not doing it again would have been a mistake, because the opportunity was lying right in front of me. And so taking that opportunity and running with it. Now, let's say that Stayluxe spirals the drain 2 years from now and, completely falls apart, things don't work out, whatever. Okay. At least I did it, right? At least I can tell my children that I did it. At least I can tell myself, hey, listen, I took the opportunity and I ran with it. And I did the best that I could.
What would you say to that person then who says, Heather, look, I'm starting out. I want a piece of the action. I want to get my first set of properties. What would your one piece of advice be over anything else to say to that person?
My one piece of advice is, in a word, education. But there's a qualifying word: proper education, specific education, right? Here's the problem. There will never be a blanket standardization of our industry. And anybody who does not understand that does not understand the industry, is all I'm going to say. And that may be harsh to say, but it's the truth. Because you are never going to see a massive company, what I would call a big box company that's got thousands of properties that they're managing, in any way, that standard being the same thing that Ma and Pa Jones is doing as they list one home on Airbnb. Two completely different operating, procedures, two completely different businesses at their core. The biggest thing that we are missing here is the segmenting of the education in our industry. Nobody is offering, you can go to a masterclass all day long. You can go to a mastermind all day long. But if what you are planning to do with your business is not the same as what that person who's offering that mastermind is doing, then it's never going to work for you. Right now, it's all over the place. It's all different. And every person is saying, this is how you should do it. This is how you should do it. This is how you should do it. Well, if my goal is not to run a company like yours, then no, that's not how I should do it. And so bringing awareness to that, I think, is super important right now if we really plan on closing the gap, the divide that we have in our industry right now.
One thing that's obvious when we talk is that you've done exactly that. And maybe you've even wrestled with it over the years. Have been like, why haven't I drunk the Kool-Aid the same way everyone else has? But actually, you've just built your own playbook.
Yeah, I'm not a chaser of shiny things. I'm not a chaser of shiny objects. And that's really what a lot of these things are, is the shiny object, the next best thing, the most, the newest, it's all over TikTok or Instagram or whatever. I am not that person. I never have been. I knew from the day that I launched Stayluxe, that there had to be a healthy balance between the hands-on old school hospitality style and new technology that helps to produce a successful company.
Heather, thank you so much, as always, for your really honest and open approach to how you talk about yourself, your business, and where it's going. It's a joy to talk to you, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We could have talked for another hour probably.
Yeah, well, we'll get you back on because there's more to do, I know, but we'll our audience will be seeing you again. Thanks, Heather.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Leo.
To our listeners, thank you very much, each of you, for tuning in today. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to subscribe for more interviews packed with industry truths, inside jokes, and lessons learned. And do share this show with your friends who may enjoy it. Until next time, this is Leo Walton signing off from the Property Managers as Guest.